Welcome. This video is a starter's guide to teach you how to play Pokemon the Trading Card Game. Pokemon the Trading Card Game is a turn-based strategy game that uses collectible cards and probability to battle. Learning the basics is a breeze. But before you learn how to play the game, let's go over some terminology to make learning easier. The first term is the word deck. A deck is a stack of cards from which you draw cards from. A deck can only contain 60 cards, no more no less. You may only have 4 cards of the same name within a deck. Basic energy cards are an exception. Your deck must contain at least one basic Pokemon in it. Note: cards in a deck are to remain face down. The term hand refers to the cards in your hand. There is no limit to how many cards you may possess in your hand at any given time. You obtain cards in your hand by drawing them from your deck. Note: your hand is to remain hidden from your opponent at all times. Usually cards go from your deck to your hand, where then you decide what happens next. Bench. The bench is where your in-play Pokemon reside when not in battle. You can choose which Pokemon go from your hand to your bench. Note: the term in play refers to your active and bench Pokemon. The Pokemon in your hand are not in play. Only a maximum of 5 Pokemon are allowed on your bench. Once a Pokemon enters your bench, it must remain there until put onto the battlefield. Note: Pokemon cards on your bench are to remain face up. Active Pokemon / battlefield. An active Pokemon is an in-play Pokemon that resides on the battlefield. The battlefield is where in-play Pokemon reside to do battle. Only one of your Pokemon can be active on the battlefield at a time. If an active Pokemon is knocked out, then the Pokemon and all cards attached to it are sent to your discard pile, while a Pokemon from your bench will replace it. Note: Pokemon on the battlefield are to remain faced up. Discard pile. Your discard pile is where your taken out of play cards are sent to. Taken out of play meaning used. Typically cards in your discard pile are not to be touched unless a card allows you to do so. Note: your discard pile is to remain faced up. Prize cards. Each player has their own prize cards. Prize cards are 6 random cards drawn from your deck before the start of the game. Every time you knock out one of your opponent's Pokemon, you get to take one of your prize cards. Note: prize cards are to remain face down. Now that we got all that vocabulary down, let's look at the 3 different types of cards. First up, energy cards. Energy cards are used by Pokemon to attack. Most Pokemon moves require energy to use. You can only attach one energy card to your active or bench Pokemon per turn. There are 11 types of energies, and energies cost. Colorless energy, bottom right, is its own energy, but its energy cost can be substituted for any other type of energy. To use either of Pikachu's attacks, you can use colorless energy cards or any other type of energy cards, i.e. fire, darkness, or psychic energy. Colorless energy costs are replaceable with any type of energy cards. If a Pokemon requires colorless energy to attack, you can use any type of energy card as a substitute for colorless energy. The next type of cards we're going to approach are Pokemon cards. Pokemon cards are the cards you use as active and bench Pokemon. The top right of a Pokemon card will tell you the Pokemon's HP. HP stands for hit points. This number is how much damage is needed to knock out this Pokemon and send it to your discard pile. This symbol in the top right next to the Pokemon's HP tells you what type of Pokemon it is. A Pokemon's attacks and abilities are located on the lower middle half of the card. Pokemon cards have attacks and sometimes abilities. Abilities are not attacks and do not have attack cost. Active and bench Pokemon can use abilities. Pokemon have attacks, and most Pokemon attacks have attack cost. Attack cost shows what type and how much of that type of energy is required to use the attack. To the right of the energy cost lies the name of the attack. To the right of the name you can see how much damage the attack will do. As you can see, the first attack does no damage, but the second attack does. This is why it's important to read the cards. Reading the cards is half the game. The bottom left of a Pokemon card will tell you what type of Pokemon type the Pokemon is weak to. This Pokemon appears to be weak to fighting type Pokemon. The ×2 tells you any damage done to this Pokemon by a fighting type Pokemon will do 2 times the damage. Next to the weakness of the Pokemon is its resistance. This tells you what type of Pokemon type this Pokemon takes less damage from. It appears this Pokemon's resistance type is metal. Any damage done to this Pokemon by a metal type Pokemon will be subtracted by 20. Below the weakness and resistance stats is the retreat cost of the Pokemon. The retreat cost of a Pokemon tells you how much energy must be attached to the Pokemon to allow you to switch it from being an active Pokemon to being a benched Pokemon. The last type of cards in the game are trainer cards. There are 3 different types of trainer cards: item, supporter, and stadium. Item cards can provide a useful item to a Pokemon or a useful ability to a player. You can use any amount of item cards in a given turn. Supporter cards can give a player a powerful ability. Only 1 supporter card can be used per turn. Stadium cards can do a variety of things to help or work against players. When a player plays a stadium card, the card stays in play indefinitely, or at least until it is replaced by another stadium card. When a stadium card is removed, send it to a discard pile and end its effects. Only 1 stadium card can be in play at a time. You can only play 1 stadium card per turn. Alright, for the next learning objective, let's see how these cards are set up on a playmat. Your prize cards belong here, face down. Your bench Pokemon belong here, faced up. Your active Pokemon belongs here, on the battlefield, faced up. Your deck belongs here, face down. Your discard pile belongs right underneath your deck, here, faced up. Note, this is a trainee playmat. Your hand is not supposed to be on the playmat. Your hand should remain in your hands, hidden from your opponent at all times. Okay, now that we got all that covered, let's go over how to start a game. 1. Shake hands with your opponent. Sportsmanship goes a long way, brother. 2. Flip a coin to determine who goes first. 3. Shuffle your deck, then draw 7 cards from it. 4. Choose a Pokemon to be put on the battlefield. 5. Place all other Pokemon from your hand to your bench. 6. Draw 6 cards from your deck, then set them up as prize cards. 7. Start the game. Let's do a practice run on starting a game and see how it goes. For this practice run, we will be starting from step 3. Shuffle your deck, then draw 7 cards from it. Then proceed to step 4. Choose a Pokemon to be put on the battlefield. Oh no! None of your cards are Pokemon. How can you possibly complete step 4? Looks like you'll have to mulligan. If a player's opening hand doesn't contain a Pokemon, that player must mulligan. A mulligan occurs when a player has no Pokemon from their draw of 7 cards opening hand. To mulligan, a player must shuffle their hand back into their deck, then draw 7 new cards from their deck. There is no limit to how many times a player must mulligan. Every time a player mulligans, their opponent may draw a card. If both players need to mulligan, then both players shuffle their hand back into their deck and draw 7 new cards. Looks like you have a Pokemon this time. Step 4 complete. It appears you have no Pokemon to put onto your bench. Oh well. Step 5 is not mandatory. Note, because you had 2 mulligans, your opponent may draw 2 cards. Now that we got all the fundamentals and mechanics down, let's go over a couple rules to the game. The player taking the first turn of the game is prohibited from attacking the turn. You may only attack at the end of your turn. Once you attack, your turn ends. You may only attach 1 energy per turn to your benched or active Pokemon. Only an active Pokemon is able to attack. You may use your active and benched Pokemon's abilities. You are only allowed to retreat 1 Pokemon per turn. When a Pokémon is knocked out, all cards attached to it are sent to the discard pile along with that Pokémon. At the beginning of each player's turn, they must draw a card from their deck. Outstanding! The last thing to address is how to win. Here are the 4 ways you can win. Knock out all of your opponents and play Pokémon. Active and benched. Take all of your prize cards. Every time you knock out one of your opponent's Pokémon, you take a prize card. If a player is unable to draw a card from their deck at any time, they lose. Note: any player can concede at any time. And there you have it. How to play Pokémon the trading card game! Exclamation mark. Hey! It appears a trainer battle is about to begin. Let's get in on some of that action. It would be great to observe a match and get a better idea for the flow of the game. It looks like player 2's going first. During the setup phase, players have their Pokémon face down. But once the game starts, they will flip all the Pokémon over to be faced up. Game start. Player 2 starts his turn by drawing a card from his deck. Player 2 then decides to attach fire energy to his Moltres and end his turn. Remember, he can't attack that turn because he went first. Player 1 decides to attach a fairy energy to her Jigglypuff and attack using Jigglypuff's Pound, doing 10 damage to Player 2's Moltres. Thus ends her turn. Player 2 adds another energy to his Moltres and attacks using the Combustion move, doing 20 damage to Player 1's Jigglypuff. Remember, after a player attacks, their turn ends. Player 1 adds another energy to her Jigglypuff, then attacks Player 2's Moltres using Rollout. Note: as you can see, Player 1 is using Fairy Energy and Fire Energy to fulfill the colorless energy attack cost. Player 2 adds an energy to his Pokémon, then plays a supporter card. Player 2 puts a Pokémon onto his bench. Player 2's Moltres attacks Player 1's Jigglypuff using Combustion. Player 1 uses an item card. Player 1's Jigglypuff uses Rollout. Player 2 adds another energy to his Pokémon. Player 2's Moltres has 3 fire and 1 fairy energy, fulfilling the move Flying Flare's attack cost requirement. Player 2 then uses Flying Flare with the addition 40 damage option. Player 1's Jigglypuff faints. Player 2 obtains a prize card. Player 1 sends out Fennekin. Player 1 puts a Pokemon onto her bench. Player 1 evolves Fennekin into Braixen. This is an advanced move, so you don't know about this. Player 1 then adds an energy to Braixen. And attacks using Destructive Flame. Tails, Moltres keeps all energy cards attached to it. Player 2 puts a Pokemon onto his bench. Player 2 plays a supporter card, healing his Pokemon for 60 damage. Player 2 then attacks using Flying Flare, doing the additional 40 damage. Player 1's breaks and faints. Player 2 isn't grabbing a prize card. There seems to be a lot of chatter on the field. It looks like the players are coming to an understanding. If I think what's happening is happening, then Player 1 is. Wowzers, there it is. Player 1 concedes. Player 2 wins. Can I get a replay on that sportsmanship, please? Boom! Nice. That's what I like to see. Be sure to check out Pokemon the trading card game online. It's just as fun in person as it is online. Follow the link below. This concludes the tutorial. Thanks for watching.